Hi, I'm Todd Baginski. I'm a Microsoft MVP and the partner and CTO at Canvas Consulting. In this video, I'm going to show you how to export content from PowerApps to OneNote Notebooks. To demonstrate this concept, I'm going to use the Meeting Capture PowerApps sample template. You can find this same exact PowerApps sample template at web.powerapps.com. I encourage you to look at the different videos I've created for this particular PowerApps sample template. I have a video that shows you how to download, install, and configure it. Another that gives you a complete end-to-end walkthrough of all the functionality in it. And then another one that is a deep dive on a different concept within the app itself. So when you first load up the Meeting Capture Power App, it looks like this, and it shows you the meetings on your calendar. You can scroll through and take a look at all the different upcoming meetings. Once you select a meeting, like I've done here for the one called Canvas Scrum, I click Start Meeting. Now here inside of the application, I'm going to add in notes for my meeting right here. And I'm also going to add in a task. And the reason I'm adding both of these things in is because I want to show you how when we export it to OneNote, this information for the attendees in the meeting, the title, the time and the date the meeting took place, the details about the meeting, the notes you took, as well as the planner tasks that you've created, all are exported to OneNote. When I click the plus button here to create a planner task, it allows me to pick a due date and assign a person to do it. I'll assign myself in this example. The application also gives you the capability to use the sketch pad here to draw sketches, or to click on the image for the camera and to take a picture on your device and put that with the meeting notes as well. Those two items are not able to be exported to OneNote at this time, just the information you see on this screen. When you're done taking your notes, you click Finish and Save, and then I'm going to come over and uncheck email. And notice it tells us we're going to lose those attachments if we don't put them on email, but that's not what I'm demonstrating in this video, so I'm just going to focus on the OneNote and Planner integration here. When I click OneNote, I'm prompted to select a location. Here, I can see a drop-down list that shows me all the different OneNote notebooks I have access to in my org. Once you select a notebook, then you can see the different sections inside of that notebook where you can create your new page for these notes that come from the Meeting Capture Power App. The Planner integration follows the same pattern where it allows me to pick a different plan where I'd like to put these items and then a bucket within that plan. I'll click OK there as well. Now I'm ready to do my export. I click the export button at the top. I'm prompted if I'm sure I'm all done, and I click Yes to continue. At this point, the export takes place, and we can see the text change at the top as the export took place, and now the export is complete. So now let's take a look at where that information went into OneNote. Flipping over to OneNote, now I can see my OneNote notebook with the same name I selected in the Power App in the Quick Notes section, and here's the page that was created. I've done this several times in the Power App, so you can see an idea of how it looks for different meetings that I have exported over time. The one I most recently exported was this one that you saw me previously working with in the video. Here you can see it identifies it came from the meeting capture. It has the date and the time and the name of the meeting, who attended and their titles, and it also has the meeting notes that I took, as well as a link to the planner so I can go look at the task. Notice that when I click this link, as you can see in the URL, it's just going to tasks.office.com. At this time, it's not possible to link all the way down to an individual task without running a lot of different code inside of the Power App to figure out the ID for that task. So we just take someone to tasks.office.com. You can see the due date as well as who it's assigned to is also reflected in this export to OneNote. Just to cover the bases here, Here's where the task was created inside of that PowerApps and Flow Applications plan I had in the to-do bucket I selected earlier. So now that we've seen how this export to OneNote took place, let's dig in and look at the code that made it happen. The first piece of the puzzle was when we actually selected where we wanted to export the information to inside of a particular OneNote notebook. To do this functionality, when the export screen becomes visible, the OnVisible function runs. As you can see at the very top here, first we're creating a collection with the clearCollect function. If you're new to PowerApps and haven't seen this function before, what this function does is creates a collection with the name of the first argument you pass into it here, email recipients, and then it here passes in the items that you would like to fill this collection with. This is used to populate all the different people who will be emailed had we selected the export to email. To actually populate the list of notebooks to allow users to select them in the drop-down list, we create another collection called OneNote Books. First, we check if it's empty. If it's empty, then we're going to create it. If it's not empty, then we're not going to create it again. This cuts down on API calls because we really only need to see which notebooks the user has access to one time as they load this screen in the app. We use the clearCollect here to create the OneNote Notebooks collection. Here, we're calling out to the OneNote Business Connector. If I click the View button at the top and then select Data Sources, inside of my Data Sources tab, I can see my OneNote Business Connector. Note that the name OneNote parentheses business close parentheses is exactly the same as the name up here. That's always the case when we have a connector and we call it from code. Its name will always match exactly what you see here in the data pane. The method that we're invoking on the OneNote Business Connector is called getNotebooks, as you can see right here. GetNotebooks will return all the notebooks the user has access to. That's how we create the OneNote Notebooks collection. We do the same thing for the OneNote Sections collection. But here what we do is we again use the OneNote Business Connector, but we call getSections in Notebook. And here we pass in the key to the notebook. Notice OneNote Notebook Select is in purple here. That's the name of the control that has the purple box drawn around it here at the bottom. So the selected items key is the value that we're going to pass into getSections in Notebook to return just the sections that correlate to the currently selected OneNote notebook. Now, as I click on these different controls down here at the bottom and I highlight this drop-down list, you can see its item collection is the OneNote Notebooks. That's the collection where we return all the notebooks. And this collection here is the OneNote Sections within that notebook that was currently selected. So that's how you can see how we return the notebooks and sections on where we're going to export the information to. The next piece of the puzzle is what happens when the user clicks the OK button on this pop-up Lightbox dialog. Here, we run an if statement to say if show OneNote or show Planner or show Overlay. Show OneNote, show Planner, and show Overlay are set to true whenever you click the select new location here or here. So it pops the appropriate overlay control to allow you to interact with that data source. In the OneNote scenario, show OneNote is true, and that's why this particular dialog is visible. First thing we're going to do is set it to false. That will hide this dialog. Then we're going to set a variable called selected notebook. That variable is going to be equal to, as you can see again here, the purple color helps us out. OneNote Notebook Select is the name of this control. So we're going to grab its selected item in there and set it as the selected notebook. We do the same thing here for the selected section, but it comes from the item below it right here. The next piece of the puzzle is going to be for the export button in the top right corner of the page. So I'm going to put the app back into preview mode, close this dialog here, and then bounce back into edit mode. Now I can select the export button in the top right. This pattern that I'm using of being inside of the PowerApps editor and bouncing back between preview mode and edit mode is a very good pattern that you can use to investigate any PowerApp, especially the ones that we've created that you will find in web.powerapps.com. It allows you to populate at runtime all the collections and variables with data and then inspect them later and step through the app quickly as you bounce back and forth to look at the code. So if we take a look at the export button here, we can see that the code inside of it says set overlay equal to true. The overlay true, when it becomes true, as you'll see right when I click this in preview mode here, that's going to pop this screen right there. So that's my overlay that we're talking about there. Now, if I click yes, continue here and select that button, now we can see the logic that's going to occur on yes, continue. It's also setting one more time to make sure that the selected notebook and the section are set. And then it's going to turn off the overlay and move on to the confirm screen. So when I go back to play mode here and I click yes, continue, now the export is occurring. You can see it's working on it and now it has completed. So how did that happen automatically when I came to that page? If we look at the confirm screen and we look at its OnVisible event here, here we can see all of the logic that actually does our export to the various locations. First, we checked export confirmed. If export confirmed is true, like we saw set in the previous page, then we're going to run this code. Otherwise, we're not going to run it. The next thing is we set loading equal to true. Loading is what changed the message at the top of the page as it worked on the export. The OneNote specific functionality is at the bottom here. And we can see check OneNote. Remember where we set that value? And that was when they had the checkbox to say they wanted to export to OneNote. If that value is true, which means the checkbox was checked, then we're going to execute the code down here to actually do the export to OneNote. So now we have a clever little pattern in here that's going to allow us to build the template that creates the HTML needed to create the page inside of OneNote. And we've set this up so that you are creating a name value pair collection with the dynamic values you'd like to inject into that template. Let me show you how it works. You'll notice here the first thing we do when we process the OneNote is this for all statement against this template data collection. So we're looping through all the rows in this collection. Then we're going to patch the templates collection by looking up into the templates collection and finding the OneNote template. We're then going to substitute the values that we pass in that match the template data inside of the OneNote template. So where did all this come from? Well, you may have already noticed the template data collection is created inside of this page here. Template data, if we look at it here at runtime by going to File, Collections, we can find the template data collection right here. This basically shows you the name value pairs we've created. So we have a name value pair with a field. It has the open squiggle, meeting name, close squiggle, and this one is our data of Canvas Scrum. The meeting start date is May 8th, and so on and so forth. We've also got the different templates. The templates that we're working with look like this. We have one for email and one for OneNote. We can't actually see into the data here unless we pull this down a bit. But once we pull it down a little bit, we can find some of the values inside of here that we're replacing. Actually, having a hard time getting this to pull down far enough very quickly. So I'm going to show you the same concept as it happens inside of the email template. See the meeting name up top with the squiggles in it? If we come back to template data, here you can see that same exact field. So essentially what's happening is we're taking the values from this collection that are dynamically generated at runtime, and we're injecting them into the templates here when we send emails or we create the HTML to create the OneNote page. You're probably wondering where we created that templates collection that actually held all of the HTML that we used to send the emails and the OneNotes. Well, that's done in the OnVisible method inside of the welcome screen that I have selected here. This is the first screen you get to when you come in the app. That's when we build these templates into the templates collection. Here you can see our template named email, and here is its value. And so here is that meeting name placeholder we saw before. You'll probably notice as I highlighted this one, it also appears here and here where it turned blue. Now, as we come down further, we can see here is the template we created for OneNote. And here is our meeting name placeholder within it. Here's meeting start time, for instance. I have meeting end time. And all that HTML right there is what is used to create this right here. So at the top, here's our meeting name for the title, and again, the meeting name there. And here's our meeting start time and the end time. So that's how that HTML was used, along with this pattern of putting it into a collection and then replacing it with the for all statement that we saw inside of the export screen here. Or pardon me, it's inside of the confirm screen that we're looking at here. So this line of code, the for all statement, is the one that basically takes the template data at the top, which is all the information like the selected meeting start date, end date, how long the meeting was. Here we loop through all of the meeting attendees and build up one row after another so that they can be displayed on top of each other inside of that export. And then down here, the one for number 2, this particular item is actually building up all of the different tasks that were created inside of the PowerApp and eventually exported to Planner as well. So after we've got all that done, we have our templates. OneNote template in particular, we have that patched up inside of our template data collection. And so finally, to export the information to OneNote, again we use the OneNote for Business connector. We call create page in section this time. We pass in the selected notebooks key, the selected sections URL that correlates to the ID. You can see up here as you look at the arguments for this particular method. The section ID is what's called the pages URL property here. And then we're going to look up in that templates collection, return the OneNote template, and use its value as the page content that we actually use to create it. When we're all done, we set loading equal to false, and by doing that, it returns this label at the top of the page to say export complete. Now you may be looking at this pattern and wondering to yourself, well, I could have done all this without 2 collections and just use ampersands to delimit the text within it. That's certainly true. You could do that. But we'd like to show this pattern because in this example, everything is done within the PowerApp. But what if you needed to call out to an external data source or configure your PowerApp such that people who were not able to edit the PowerApp could edit the template or these values in the email? This pattern would allow you to do that by calling out to another data source such as Excel or CDS or Dynamics or anywhere you can actually store data and get it from a Power App. So that's why we chose to implement this pattern to demonstrate how that can be done and how you can separate the template you have from the data that goes inside of it. We hope that you find this pattern helpful, and it allows you to build applications that allow you to export data to OneNote and automatically create pages in it as well. And we also hope you really find this meeting capture sample helpful. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you got a lot out of it. I'll see you next time.